The story begins with a man named Frank Hopkins, a skilled horse rider who also works as a dispatch rider, someone who delivers messages. Frank owns a wild Mustang horse named Hidalgo. Over the years, Frank has participated in numerous long-distance horse races and has won many of them. One day, Frank is assigned to deliver a message to the 7th Cavalry Regiment. He has no idea what the message contains. Once he delivers it, the U.S. Army surrounds a Native American tribe called the Lakota and, following the message's instructions, massacres many of them. When Frank learns that he unknowingly delivered a message that led to the deaths of innocent people, he is devastated and begins to live with the guilt. Frank and Hidalgo are also performers in Asterisk, Buffalo Bill's Wild West show, and they are recognized worldwide as the greatest horse and rider duo Asterisk. Another performer in the show is Chief, Eaglehorn. One day, Eaglehorn informs Frank that the government considers wild Mustangs impure and has ordered that all wild horses be rounded up and killed. Neither Frank nor Eaglehorn can accept this cruelty. So, they both approach Buffalo Bill for help. But he says it's the government's decision, and there's nothing he can do. This leaves both Frank and Eaglehorn disheartened. One day, during the show, a royal relative of an Arab sheik named Aziz and his associates, Rauf, Rassam, and Hussein, arrive. They challenge Frank and Hidalgo to participate in a legendary long-distance race held in the Arabian desert. The race spans 3,000 miles through harsh terrain and is known as the Ocean of Fire. $100,000? Frank accepts the challenge, but doesn't have the money to travel to the Middle East. He asks a friend for financial help. She agrees and helps him gather the funds. The next day, Frank sets off with Hidalgo to Arabia to participate in the race. Frank travels via steamship, and during the journey, he meets a woman named Anne Davenport, whose horse is also participating in the race. After several days, Frank and Hidalgo reach Arabia. There we meet an Arab sheik, powerful horse breeder who owns the famous horse bloodline known as Al-Kamsa. This breed is considered the fastest in Arabia, and the sheik's own horse, Al-Hatel, will compete in the race ridden by the sheik's own son, the prince The sheik has promised the prince that if he wins the race, he will marry the sheik's only daughter, Jazira. However, Jazira doesn't want to marry the prince and instead wants Frank to win, so she secretly supports him. The race begins, and Frank moves forward, but it's far from easy. The competitors must cross scorching deserts, and many horses die due to the extreme heat. Frank and Hidalgo are not used to desert racing. The conditions are brutal. During the first leg of the race, they face a massive sandstorm. To survive, Frank leads Hidalgo to the ruins of an old structure. Unfortunately, all the water Frank has is spoiled by the storm. But despite this, he continues the journey with determination. Eventually, the first round of the race ends. Many riders perish in the storm, but Frank and Hidalgo survive and return to the resting point. Meanwhile, the sheik is visited by his relative Chetabi, who has sinister intentions. Chatib wants control over the Al-Kamsa bloodline and demands that the sheik give him ownership of the horses. But the sheik refuses because he knows the value of this noble breed. Would you like me to continue translating the rest of the story? Here is the English translation of your provided Hindi movie explanation part 2. Continuing the story of Hidalgo 2004. The sheik refuses Chatib's demand to give up his horse, Al-Kamsa, because this noble breed has been raised by his ancestors for generations. Later, we see Frank resting in his tent when Jazira, the sheik's daughter, arrives to give him survival tips for riding through the desert with his horse. But suddenly, the sheik walks in and sees the two together. He is furious and doesn't tolerate a stranger speaking with his daughter. Jazira tries to explain that Frank didn't call her. She came on her own, and he didn't even speak to her. However, the sheik refuses to listen and orders his men to punish Frank by mutilating him. As Frank is about to be punished, Chatib's men attack the camp. Chatib wants to steal the sheik's prized horse Al-Kamsa, so he creates a distraction with the assault. Amidst the chaos, the prince escapes with the horse Al-Qadil. Jazeera secretly frees Frank, but the sheik's relative Aziz steals a sacred book from the tent, a book passed down by the sheik's ancestors, containing detailed information on the Al-Kamsa bloodline. Once the attack is over, the sheik realizes that Chatib has kidnapped Jazeera and is demanding Al-Qadil in exchange for her return. The sheik also learns that Aziz stole the sacred book. He sends his men to capture Aziz. Aziz is caught and under interrogation. He claims he only wanted to keep the book safe, but Chatib's men took it from him. Frank intervenes, ties Aziz to his horse, and forces him to reveal Chatib's location. The sheik tells Frank that if he brings back Jazeera and the book, his punishment will be lifted. Frank agrees, along with Aziz and another loyal man from the sheik's group. Frank sets off to confront Katib. Frank cleverly brings a fake Al-Qadil, disguised with black dye. He offers it to Chatib in exchange for Jazeera's freedom. Chatib agrees, but soon realizes he's been tricked. The horse is not Al-Qadil, but a white one disguised in black. Enraged, Chatib's men attack Frank and his allies, the sheiks. Loyal man kills many of Chatib's men, but dies in the battle. Meanwhile, Jazeera steals back the sacred book and escapes with Frank. Jazeera later apologizes to Frank for everything he has gone through. Frank brings her safely back to the sheik and returns to his own tent. That evening, Anne, the other female rider, calls Frank to her tent and offers him money to drop out of the race. She wants her horse to win at any cost. Frank refuses the offer. The next day, the race resumes, but now things are even more dangerous. Chatib is waiting to sabotage Frank. He secretly meets with Anne, and they strike a deal. Anne's rider will share Frank's location, allowing Chatib's men to kill Hidalgo and steal Al-Qacha. As the race continues, Frank and Chatib is waiting to sabotage Frank. He secretly meets with Anne, and they strike a deal. Anne's rider will share Frank. Anne's rider will share Frank as a secret. Anne's rider will share Frank's location. Hidalgo spend days crossing the desert. Food becomes scarce, and Frank is forced to eat dead insects. She also feeds to Hidalgo. At one point, another rider named Sakir falls into quicksand. Although the race rules forbid helping other competitors, Frank breaks the rules and saves Sakir's life, pulling him out of the swamp. Meanwhile, Chatib's men are waiting to ambush Frank. They have dug hidden traps and pits along the route. Anne's rider signals Frank's position, and Chatib's men launch their attack. Frank and Hidalgo fall into a pit, and Hidalgo is badly injured. However, the attackers don't kill Frank, as Anne had forbidden them to do so. They leave. Him trapped and injured. Later, Sakir returns and helps Frank and Hidalgo out of the pit. But soon, Chatib's men release cheetahs to kill them. Frank and Sakir fight back and manage to kill the cheetahs. Would you like me to continue with the rest of the story in English? Here is the English translation of the final part of your Hindi. Movie explanation for Hidalgo 2004. Chatib's men shoot Sakya and he dies on the spot. Chatib then challenges Frank to a one-on-one fight. Frank accepts, and during the fight, he cleverly tricks Chatib into stepping on a trap that Chatib himself had set earlier. Frank pulls the rope and causes Chatib to fall into the pit he had dug. Frank then continues the race. But soon his horse Hidalgo Dalco collapses from exhaustion and blood starts coming out of his nose. He is unable to continue, which leaves Frank deeply heartbroken. Feeling sorry for Hidalgo, Frank prepares to put him down to end his suffering. Just then, Frank has a vision of his ancestors, pleads with them for help. Their spirits motivate and inspire him not to give up. Strengthened by their support, Frank decides not to kill his horse. At that moment, the prince arrives and mocks Frank, telling him to quit and go back. But right then, Hidalgo stands up, ready to run again. Frank climbs back on him, and they rejoin the race. They are now very close to the finish line, and everyone is eagerly waiting to see who will win. Anne, the woman who tried to bribe Frank, is confident that her rider will win. But Frank and Hidalgo gallop at full speed. They overtake the prince and Alcaudal. Hidalgo pushes with every ounce of strength left, and then passes Ants. Rider as well. Even though Hidalgo is bleeding and clearly exhausted, he refuses to give up. Finally, Frank wins the race. Jazeera is overjoyed, knowing she won't have to marry the prince. The sheik personally congratulates Frank, gives him the prize, and they form a bond of friendship and respect. Frank gifts the sheik his revolver and bids a heartfelt farewell to Jag. In the final scene, we return to Frank's home country, where government officers are about to kill captured wild mustangs. Just in time, Frank arrives. Holding an official order, declares that all the wild horses must be released. Why? Because Frank used all of his prize money to buy their freedom. The officers release the wild horses. And Frank finally sets Hidalgo free too, giving him the freedom he deserves. And with this emotional moment, the movie ends. If you'd like a summary, video description, or a script for voiceover, just let me know.